Oh, okay, imagine this. Before he was scooping ice cream on Colfax, Denver, Colorado, he was packing nightclubs with bodies, promoting parties that pulsed until sunrise. There was sound, sweat, smoke, backstage, everything, but something shifted. A beat dropped, and he never picked it back up. And instead of chasing the next headliner, Tullie stayed still. He built something soft, sweet, rooted in a rhythm and not noise, in family, in food, and most importantly, in community. Now, in the lobby of 11th Avenue Hostel, Tullie serves cones and conversations to travelers chasing freedom, to neighbors looking for peace, to a city still learning how to breathe together. This story isn't a story about quitting the nightlife. It's a story about what happens when the music goes inward and starts to heal. Unpack this episode with us, with me, Bryant Perkins, your host for the BHostel podcast. I'll see you back here in a minute. Thank you for coming on the show. As you know, this is BHostel. We're here in Denver, Colorado at 11th Avenue Hostel. And I have the pleasure of sitting across from
Tullie Bailey.
Tullie Bailey. Thank you. Thank you, good brother, for coming on. Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Grand Junction, Colorado. It's about 4 hours from Denver.
Okay. And how did you get here to 11th Avenue Hostel?
So kind of a weird story. I used to manage all the nightclubs in the neighborhood, would pass by this place a bunch, and an opportunity presented itself to take over the cafe space, and I took on the opportunity, and me and my wife opened a Colfax and Cream cafe down in the hostel.
So what is Colfax and Cream?
Colfax and Cream is a sort of culturally relevant ice cream cafe.
What would be the culture behind the brand?
Yeah, so what we've tried to do is kind of mash up a coffee shop and ice cream shop with like a skate shop. It's sort of the culture.
Okay.
You know, ice cream shops tend to be like either cute or they feel like a diner. Mm-hmm. And then coffee shops have a tendency to kind of be, if you don't understand the culture, like know what a cortado is or whatever, they might have their nose up in the air, or it's like a Starbucks and it's just like a Motel 6. So what we wanted to do was create a space that spoke to the demographic and culture I came up in, which is, you know, skateboarding, hip hop, punk
Dope.
music, whatever.
Dope.
Me and my wife.
Right. How do you think of connecting that like layered cultural experience from your shop into hostel life? To me, that seems as disconnected as you can get. How do you then filter all that in and be like, hey, I'm going to connect to the people who are going to be guests at this place?
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately hostel life are travelers, right? And as a traveler, you're exposing yourself to culture by nature. And that particular culture, the culture that speaks to me or has spoken to me over the years, I think resonates with guests that travel in the hostel, right? The demographic is what, like late teens to like early 50s, right? And most of those people came up listening to everything from, you know, Jay-Z to the Misfits. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the demographic that we speak to as well. So it's actually been pretty seamless.
Got you. What was your Jay-Z head?
Definitely. I rock with Jay-Z.
Okay,
sure.
Yeah. I mean, I rock with it. I'm a Roots fan.
Love the Roots too.
Tell you the truth, because I'm East Coast, but I grew up in Delaware. But we don't have any stations or everything, so everything's Philly, and the roots are Philly, so that's what we got. We just got like an influx of everything roots. So if you're Jay-Z's head, hip-hop head, tell me your greatest hip-hop era.
I mean, it's ranged, man. I when I was young, like I kind of came from a really rough situation, so gangster rap was very prevalent in my life. When I had gotten myself out of some of the trouble that I had got myself into, that was in the early 2000s, and I started discovering the backpack scene and really connected myself to the backpack scene, and I ended up actually I played my first show in Denver as a hip-hop artist, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I parlayed that into playing shows regionally, then nationally, and by the end of that portion of my life, I was touring all over the world with artists like Atmosphere, Living Legends. Yeah, those guys are my people.
Stop. So what, you have this like amazing experience and come up through this culture that's become multicultural at this point, right?
Sure.
Because we're talking about root culture, we'll say African American culture, you know, but then it becomes multicultural, it becomes this meshing of other things. Did you experience any setbacks or downsides
as far as
integrating your style of hip hop and your style of music into something that was so strongly rooted in another culture?
Nah, you know, my father passed away when I was 2. My mother was a single parent, 5 kids at 23. So I came up in a pretty rough environment, and that music just spoke to me. So naturally, I just integrated with the community that also went through those things. So everything was like real natural and seamless. I just, you know, if you move a certain way, you move a certain way. There isn't any replicating or whatever.
Facts. Yeah. It's like you're not faking who you are.
Nah.
That's who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and you parlay that into, you know, music that speaks to you. So if you were coming up now as a young person,
sure,
what would you think of the music back then when you were younger? Like you coming up now as a young person, like how would you compare
looking back versus the hip hop right now?
Exactly.
You know, I try to not come off as like an old person. I'm in my 40s now. That's like, our music was so much better. But you know, it's just different. Like the times are different, right? I try to appreciate it all. There's artists that are relevant right now that I rock with, like Griselda. You know, then there's the stuff I mess with back in the day. So I try to stay away from really. I mean, I like it all.
Yeah, it's a PC answer. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. A lot of it's trash to me, but I rock with some of the things, or I'm happy to see Roots, Andre 3000, Mos Def, Talib Kweli. I'm glad they're still around. They still make music.
Yeah, I mean,
Wu-Tang Clan is about to come up with another album.
I mean,
you know, so
the Roots are putting out some of their best music, right?
Right?
It's crazy. Like their legs are crazy. But let me flip that real quick. That question. So when we were young, and hip hop was relatively new, and we were trying to communicate how important that culture was to us, and we were just like, yo, you just don't get us, you don't understand it, right? And so as someone that's, you know, aged a little bit, I try to not look at what I don't understand as not good. I try to just like give it the you know, a chance, I guess.
Right. It's not even giving it the benefit of doubt. You're just like, all right, let me look at this for the art that it is.
Yeah.
As opposed to comparing it to the art that I grew
because
up
there was
with.
a time when my music, they didn't get it, right? People didn't understand why we rocked the way we rocked. And so looking back now, I try to just, you know, go with the flow, and some of it speaks to me, some of it doesn't, you know.
What's on your phone right now? If you put your headphones in, what
that's
we
the
rock
fun.
with?
So there's only one artist I've been listening to, and it's not hip hop. It's kind of hip hop, I guess. Fred Again.
Fred Again. Okay.
Fred Again, he's dope. He's a producer, DJ-based producer from the UK. Oddly enough, his neighbor and mentor was the creator of ambient music.
Stop.
Yeah, so he got to come up with this guy that literally invented ambient music, and he took that and sort of applied kind of hip hop ideology to it, some EDM ideology to it. So it's this weird, like, kind of trip hop, kind of funk, kind of hip hop, but with a EDM twist. That's what I listen to mostly. But you know, I managed nightclubs for a long time, and because of that, I've listened to so much music that at this day and age, I don't really listen to a lot of music or seek it because I've spent thousands of hours on tour and thousands of hours in nightclubs, and so I'm not. Usually, it's either something mellow or nothing.
No, yeah, I think I primarily listen to music when I work out.
Yeah.
And maybe when I drive these days,
Yeah.
but most of the time I'm listening to podcasts or I'm listening to YouTube. But if you are one of those people where you've hung up your nightclub hat or whatever, I still give me a little insight into that era of the nightclub scene here in Denver, Colorado. Because for me, I think it's like packed with stories.
Yeah, oh man, I got crazy stories that happen in this neighborhood. So I'll give you a couple. So the way we came to nightclubs, I had toured all over the world. I got married, we had a daughter, and I kind of wanted to be home more. And I was good at throwing parties, so I started throwing parties in the city. And eventually, the most stable thing I could find was working at a nightclub. So I just stepped in as like literally a bar back, right? And I worked my way through that. 5 years running a club, 6 years running 2 clubs. And then eventually running 5 clubs. And, some of the stories, the funniest one that comes to mind is I'm managing multiple venues. And we had this one venue that was closed down. It used to be called the Living Room. It's now like
the living room.
Yeah. It was like a high-end wine bar. It's now a restaurant, but there was this couple-year lull where it was just empty. So we would periodically check on it, make sure everything was good, no one's breaking in. Nightclub neighborhoods tend to be a little rough.
A little sketch.
And had a patio and all that. And so my head of security calls me on the radio. I was like, hey, Tullie, you need to get out here. I'm like, all right, I'll be there in a second. And I come outside, and these homeless dudes had like ripped the gas out and lit it on fire, and they were cooking chicken.
Stop.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, guys, I got to call the cops, man. You guys are tearing up my lines. You're cooking chicken. And they're like, you want some? And I was like, nah, man.
No,
I said, look, bro,
none of your
just
street gasoline.
get out of here in 10 minutes. That way you don't go to jail. But I can't have you just open flame cooking chicken on our patio. It's not it.
I have one nightclub story from the East Coast because, like I said, I lived in New York for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it was Pink Elephant.
Okay.
Big nightclub back then. Was it 2009 or whatever? And it was a line to get in.
Okay.
This place called the Pink Elephant. I'm like, why is there a line to get in? So I think it's because like Paris Hilton was in there.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, there's a line to get in because Paris Hilton, or at least that's what was filtered down the line or whatever. And so all of a sudden the fight breaks out in the line. And there's grown men. And for some reason,
fighting at a Paris Hilton entrance.
Fighting to get into the club that Paris Hilton is in.
Wow.
Grown men.
Yeah.
And he literally screamed out, no, I'm trying to see Paris. It's like as he gets punched in the face and lands on the ground and then gets kicked out of line. And me and my boys just like, I don't know if this is worth it.
Yeah.
And we just bounced out of line and went home. But I just thought it was funny seeing grown men fight to get inside a club to see Paris Hilton.
Pretty wild.
Probably wouldn't have gotten within 10 feet of Paris Hilton.
No. not even close.
On a good night. But that's my nightclub story, man. But I never kind of got into it as a young adult or as an older adult, maybe because of those situations. And I think there's also safety concerns.
Sure.
Clubs getting shot up. Did you ever encounter anything like that where you were like, I'm in fear for the life of my staff? Or
absolutely. No, I mean, there's another one. Yeah, wild stuff all the time. One time I had this artist from the UK. He had just played one of our main floor at Bar Standard. And he was done, wrapped up a little early. And it was right after COVID, so people were a little wild. It was wild in the streets. Dudes from the UK. And we're walking up the alley over by Torchy's because Milk, the entrance is in the alley. And Bar Standard's above that. And so we took the elevator down to Milk, walked out, walking up the alley. And this truck comes flying around the corner, and it has like a semi-automatic weapon out the window. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and that dude was like, "Oh my God, are we?" And I had to calm him down. I was like, "Yeah, it's okay, man. These guys are just being knuckleheads. Nothing crazy's happening." And we get up another block, and like peripherally, I see like 4 bodies on the ground.
Are you serious?
And I kind of like distract him. That's like, oh yeah, look at this, look at that. Get him to his hotel just because I don't want him to have a panic attack. Get him to his hotel, which he was staying at the Art, and then I double back, check on the cops, add what assistance I can add in that moment, and then go back to the venues I'm running and make all the team aware and kind of put everything on a lockdown because of how live that moment had gone. And it happens everywhere. I mean, it's one of these things where liquor and nights, man, people get a little wild.
And people are just edgy. But what was the straw that broke the camel's back when you were like, yeah, I got a wife, I got a daughter?
Yeah.
Nah.
Well, a couple things, man. I felt like I had climbed to the top of that mountain, right? I was running the 5 biggest nightclubs in the city. And the next thing would be either me do my own thing or open my own club. And that wasn't interesting to me. I had been sober for a number of years, and this idea of like driving the cells up with the kids just didn't work with me either. Like I'd be in a meeting where they're, hey, liquor sales are down. We need to figure out how to get the kids to drink more liquor. And then I would be in another meeting where it's like mediation for maybe someone overly intoxicated got into an accident and, caused harm on themselves because they drank too much. And so I just got tired of battling that mentally and looked to do something outside of that. Fortunately, during COVID, I was driving my wife and daughter crazy, like building decks and rebuilding bicycles, making noise. And they're both working remote, going to school remote. And they're like, bro, get out of here. And so I did 2 things. I started managing an ice cream shop, and I started driving for Lyft.
Oh, dope. Okay.
Right? And the Lyft thing kind of became therapy for me. It was an interesting way to interact with people. Some people just, wanted to know where to go and eat and that kind of thing. And then a lot of people were genuinely struggling. And I come from a hard background. And then because of all the management stuff I've done in my life, I have a mind for solving problems. So I started helping people solve problems, and that turned into me doing some coaching things, and then I ended up writing a book and wrote a second book, and that ended up opening up some consultant doors where I now work with like food trucks and bars and restaurants and people one-on-one, just helping them figure out what their ambitions are and helping them achieve those goals. So that happened, and then during COVID again, I was managing this ice cream shop, and I enjoyed it. It was like, when you go get ice cream, you're either having a great day or maybe you had a slump, and that ice cream's gonna get you over the hump. But it's lower stakes than someone drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels, right? And so like once we came back from COVID, I stopped managing the shops I was managing and jumped fully back into the club scene and got everything going, showed that company the most profitable years they had ever had, launched a consulting company, did a bunch of things there. But peripherally, I found a couple ice cream locations, and my wife was interested in it too, and so I kind of approached it like a consultant, right? Like I helped her open the shops, but even to this day, like the whole business is hers. Nothing's in my name, and I just help her where she needs help. Sometimes that means actually scooping ice cream. Other times it's me in meetings with them, helping them solve problems, figure out strategies, marketing, whatever.
How much does your family dynamic play into not only how the shop is run, but what the shop consists of in terms of the food you sell, the drinks you serve?
My wife, we've tried to incorporate things that we like. We brought out our own brand of refresher that's, we formulated the energy stuff, and we kind of built this thing from scratch. We've integrated some Ethiopian food. My wife's Eritrean, so that part's in there. And then the family dynamic, my wife is very headstrong. She's very smart person, graduated full ride scholarship, CU Boulder, as a first generation Eritrean. And so because of that, like it, sometimes I gotta like step back and let her do her thing. We were just in a meeting last week where she had her team. She was getting so mad at me because I get passionate. Yeah. And people, they were listening, whatever, and like I kind of ran over her a little bit. And so I, in that moment, I realized like, hey, I got to stop going to these meetings unless you guys need me, because I don't, this is your business. I'm just here to help wherever I need to help. So like, there's some growing that we're doing as a married couple, as like business associates. It's new territory for both of us.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate with love at the base of it, right?
Yeah.
Like love, understanding, appreciation. What do you feel your wife takes from your culture and your life experiences in the marriage, and what do you feel you take from her culture and her life experiences in marriage that make that marriage stronger?
You know, my wife has a strong sense of family, of loyalty, just like the general things that you want from a relationship. And then my culture, you know, and she comes from hard stuff too, right? Like she was the oldest sibling, and so when she got here, she had to like be her mom, you know, translate for her mom, and
she's like first generation.
She came here, so they're from Eritrea during the war with Ethiopia. Her and her mom walked to the Sudan to escape it.
Stop.
Right, and then they some relatives immigrated here. They sponsored them.
Okay.
So then she came. By then she had some other siblings, and so she's the oldest, and so she almost became the second mom, and she had to navigate certain stuff to get her family balance and all of that. And yeah, so with me, I'm the youngest, so that's another thing that. Like I kind of do whatever I want.
Exactly.
And it drives my wife crazy.
Exactly.
And she's like, "Oh, you youngest kids." Blah, 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 blah. But we do what we do, and it works for us, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. I think I love the blending of cultures and the exploration of where each other has come from, right? And I think it strengthens your bond, it strengthens your marriage, and it creates a healthy future. It's like what the United States should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's like meshing of cultures and personalities and life experiences. How do you feel like your blend, this is a loaded question, how do you feel about your blend tying into the overall fabric of the United States and where the United States is going right now?
Well, I mean, first of all, I agree with you. I love it, and I think that that's what America represents. As far as what's going on right now, like it's ugly, right? No one wants to be a part of it. I try to be a bridge because I know people on every dimension,
sides,
and
right?
I try to like talk the talk and balance and blend people. But for right now, it's getting a little bit crazy and hard, right? Like I remember when this dude got elected again, I was just like, fuck. Not even. I mean, take all of him out of there, right?
Like
we're
taking
all the crazy stuff he's gonna do.
We're taking all of this out. We're talking about character, personality.
That stuff. I just knew that it was gonna make my home life more complicated.
Oh, stop! I didn't even think about that.
You know what I mean? Like,
right?
Like now I gotta balance and do all these other things, and I'm just like, fuck, man. I thought we were past that.
Yeah.
But you know, everything that's a challenge makes you stronger. We work through it all, and we'll get to wherever we're going.
Yeah, I mean, you can only handle what happens in your home. You know, so to get lost in the doom and gloom of what's going to happen domestically, could be draining on a marriage. You know, it's like do you guys have a set of ground rules or tenets or things that you have between each other where it's like no matter what happens, we stick to these things? You know,
I mean, yeah, you know, we just know each other, and so we just give each other the kind of space that we need. I worked in the nightclubs forever, so we've already lived in a way that took some like strategic balancing, and it's just about communicating and using the tools that we have to like make sure that everybody's okay. You know, we have a daughter, and our daughter's mixed. It's funny. Like I remember we were in Puerto Rico a couple years ago, and like obviously I'm a white guy. My wife's Eritrean, and my daughter looks Puerto Rican, and so the whole time everybody's trying to speak Spanish to her, but you know she doesn't speak Spanish.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like butter brown skin goes a long way, is what my dad said.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, what's it like having a mixed child? Do you have any fears for her? I have a daughter. My daughter is 18, but I have fears for her just as a dad, knowing that I have a black woman as a child. You essentially, even though your child's mixed, is going to be perceived as anything from black to Puerto Rican to Eritrean.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously like there's a fear that one group will treat one way, the other group will treat her another way. What we've tried to do is just expose her to as much culture as possible so that she can just find her own lane and be comfortable in it. Fortunately for her, during a lot of her formative years, I was managing all these nightclubs, and so like she would walk like one of them is called Milk Bar, and it's one of the most unique goth clubs in the country.
It's a goth club?
Goth,
named Milk Bar.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that.
And we've done some cool stuff. We had done some cool stuff with it, and it's a special place. But anyway, my daughter, you know, from pretty much when she could walk, really, all the way to now, like she's in there with the coolest of the cool. Like obviously she's not there when it's open, but I would have to go bring banks and go in and check the arcade and do several things. And so she was seeing all of these different aspects and dynamics, and so she's actually like miles ahead of a lot of kids because of her exposure to culture. And we move that way. Like me and my wife, like we don't really limit certain things. Like we allow her to like be what she wants to be and move that way.
That's beautiful, because now she has like this expanded worldview that she can take into adulthood, and that's thanks to mom and dad.
Yep.
Man, I wish we could talk forever.
Sure.
But on that note of expanded worldview, if you had to give a message to the world to be like, hey, hold tight. I know it's ugly right now. ...
Yeah. Well, I think because of what this podcast represents, which is hostels, I think one of the great unifiers is travel, right? Keep traveling, because if you keep traveling, you're going to expose yourself to other ways of life, and those other ways of life are going to help you accept the world as it is, and it's going to be more freeing for you. So keep traveling, keep staying in hostels.
Love it.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you,
go.
good brother Tullie.
Word up. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Man.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Colfax and Cream.
It's like that. Everybody just saying. It's a good story. Tullie used to move the room. Used to move the room with bass. Now he moves the block with butter pecan and cookies and cream. And it's beautiful. But Tullie didn't give up. He didn't give up anything. He just shifted the frequency. Because sometimes the real flex isn't throwing the loudest party. It's staying in one place long enough to build something real. Right? This was BHostel. I'm your host, Bryant Perkins. Thank you for unpacking this latest episode with us on the launch of season 3 of the BHostel podcast. This was an amazing episode 1. We have many more to go. We're just getting started. We'll see you back here next time. So that does it for this check-in. I'm Bryant Perkins, and this has been a BHostel podcast, where every story starts with a bag drop, a bunk claimed, and a new chapter waiting to be written. You know, if you felt something from this episode, or did you just vibe with the journey, do me a solid, like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share with someone who needs a little hostel wisdom in their life. You know, this story, just like most of the ones that we tell, came straight from travelers like you. Got a wild experience, a hard truth, or a moment that changed everything? Hit me up at BHostelPod.com and let's get your story out into the world. And don't forget, BHostel is more than a YouTube channel. We have a podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to listen. We go even deeper there with unfiltered hostel tales, uncut lessons, and real life stories from the road that we sometimes can't even post here. Major shout out to our supporters and subscribers. You keep this show moving and flowing from bed to bunk and city to city. And if you're a new listener and you want to support the pod, subscribe, or leave a review. Reviews really help. That's it for now. Until the next check-in, be well, trust the process, and as always, you matter, and you be the storyteller. Until next time.